Hello, students. I am Samuel sir again, and we are in the chapter 3 of the book known as Fundamentals of Physical Geography. And the chapter's name is Interior of the Earth. We have just seen the part 1 of the uh, chapter's video. This is the second part. In the part 1, we talked about the direct ways and indirect ways of knowing what is inside the Earth. Now, in this chapter, we will first talk about the structure of what is there inside the Earth, and then we will talk about the volcanoes. So, you know this from your childhood, maybe from your class 6 onwards, you know that the Earth is having a layered structure. You have the innermost core, then mantle, and then the outermost crust. This is how it looks. The crust is the outermost layer. It is brittle in nature, and it has got different thickness in different places. The oceanic thickness is much less, just 5 kilometers, and the continental thickness is 30 kilometers. And on the major mountain systems, the thickness is as much as 70 kilometers. Also, the density of material is different. On continent, it is 3 gram per cubic centimeter, and in the oceans, it is 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter. And the continental material is heavy rocks, whereas the oceanic is basalt. This is a diagrammatic representation of the crust. You have the oceanic area, the crust is very thin, you can see. Then in the continental area, you have a thicker crust. Now, there's a term called Moho discontinuity. Forget about Conrad discontinuity. Look at the Moho discontinuity on the right hand side. This is the uppermost layer of the mantle and the lowermost layer of the crust. That is, that line is known as Moho discontinuity. Moho is a short form for Mohorovic. It's the name of a geologist. Then again, in this, you have to know one term. It's known as asthenosphere. Asthenos means weak. This is again between the mantle and the crust. That red line is the Moho discontinuity, and just below that is the asthenosphere. Asthenosphere is the weakest portion of the layer of the different layers of Earth, and that makes it what makes it important is because when an earthquake comes, this is a layer which is not able to absorb or tolerate the energy of the waves, and then that results in damage on the surface of the Earth. So the mantle extends from Moho's discontinuity to a depth of 2,900 kilometer. The upper portion of the mantle is called as asthenosphere, just as like you know, astheno means weak. This is some 400 kilometers deep, and it is the main source of magma. The crust on the uppermost part of mantle is called lithosphere. It has a thickness between 10 and 200 kilometers. The density of material here is 3.4 gram per centimeter cube. Now, when we are talking about density, and we talked about the indirect ways of knowing what is there below the earth. Now, if you get a material in your hand, and if you can find out the density by weighing the material and then finding its volume and dividing one by another, the weight by the uh, volume, you get the density. And based on your findings, you can say very well what the origin of the material in your hand was. Was it the crust, or was it the mantle, or was it the core? Now, lower mantle extends beyond asthenosphere, and it is in solid state. Now we talk about the core. Sorry about that. From a depth of 2,900 kilometers till the till the very center, the outer core is in liquid state and the inner core is in solid state. The density at core boundary is again you're talking about density, 5 gram per cubic centimeter, and at the center is much higher, almost thrice as high as the core boundary, that is 13 gram per cubic centimeter. And core is made up of heavy metal, mostly nickel and iron. Remember, nickel and iron both are magnetic materials, and the chemical symbol for nickel is Ni, and the chemical symbol for iron is Fe. So together, this core is also known as Ni-Fe. Ni stands for nickel, and Fe stands for iron. Earthquake wave velocities help us in understanding the existence of core of the Earth. You know about the shadow areas, about P waves and S waves that we talked about in the first part of the chapter's video. Now we come to volcanoes. They are classified on the basis of nature of eruption and uh, the form developed at the surface. Now, here in our chapter, we are talking mainly about the form developed at the surface. The nature of eruption, you have active volcanoes, dormant volcanoes, and extinct volcanoes. That we are not talking about in our chapter. We are talking about the form which is developing at the surface, either shield or composite or caldera or flood basalt province or mid-ocean ridge volcanoes. Now, these shield volcanoes are the largest volcanoes when you do not consider the basalt flow of all volcanoes. The volcanoes in the Hawaiian Islands are all examples of shield volcanoes. They are mostly made up of basalt, which is a type of lava that is very fluid when erupted. Very fluid means it flows uh, 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 very well. So these volcanoes are not steep; they are at a shallow angle. Now these volcanoes are low explosive, but when they explode when water enters into the vent. Upon eruption, the lava erupts in the form of a fountain, and it throws off the cone at the top of the vent, and that this develops into a cinder cone. This is a mount known as volcanic mountain known as Kilauea. This is in the Hawaiian Islands, and this has erupted. You can see the kind of eruption. We just said that this erupts uh, uh, in the form of a fountain. So look at that. It erupts. It has erupted in the form of a fountain. The magma material is quite liquid in nature, and it's flowing almost like a river. The meaning of composite is more than one. you know so now these volcanoes, when they erupt, the lava comes out. It's much cooler and more viscous. That is, viscous means more thicker, more resistant to flow than basalt. Now these volcanoes often erupt explosively. They really explode. Along with lava, large quantities of pyroclastic materials and ashes come out, and this accumulates in the vicinity of the vent, forming layers. This makes the mount appear as composite volcanoes. This is a diagrammatic representation. Look at the light gray and dark gray layers. That is from explosions in different times. And look at the uh, uh, pipe-like conduits. You have a thick central conduit, and from that branches are coming out. So, and wherever these branches are coming out, it's coming out as a side vent, and there you have a small parasitic cone. This is a composite volcano. Like I told you in the beginning, composite means more than one, combination of more than one. This is a composite volcano. Now, caldera is the most explosive of volcanoes, and they are so explosive that when they erupt, they tend to collapse on themselves. They do not build any tall structure, but they collapse. And the collapse depressions are called calderas. And often these calderas, when the water collects in them, they look like lakes. This nature indicates that the magma chamber was huge and near the surface, and suddenly it exploded. This is a diagrammatic representation of a caldera volcano. You can see the red part, the magma chamber is much larger, much bigger, and it's very near the surface. And when it explodes, It takes the top portion off, really, literally. Now, this is a caldera volcano. I have drawn this dotted red line to show my guess of what the volcanic mount might have looked before it exploded. And it might have exploded one day suddenly and it literally blew the top away. This is a lake formed in a caldera volcano. This diagram shows four types of volcanoes. In the same diagram, this is to give you a good idea of what we are talking about. We did not talk about fissure volcano, but we did talk about shield volcano, composite volcano, and caldera. Look at the missing top on the caldera. Now we are talking about plains, particularly flood basalt provinces. Now they pour out highly fluid lava, that means which is able to flow very easily and they flow to long distances and they can cover thousands of square kilometers with thick basalt lava. Some thickness can be 50 meters thick and can be several hundred kilometers long. The Deccan Traps in Maharashtra are a much larger basalt province. It is believed to have been much larger in the past. Sorry. Now look at this diagrammatic representation of a basalt province. Look at the lava which is spreading, flowing. It's not very deep, just 50 meters, but it's flowing to hundreds of kilometers. This is an actual picture of lava flowing to several hundred kilometers. And it gives rise to this kind of structure. This is Deccan Traps in Maharashtra. You can look at the layered structure, layer upon layer, layer upon layer, maybe over millions of years, it has formed this structure. If you ever go to a hill station known as Matheran in Maharashtra, there's a viewpoint known as Lemles Bench. This picture is from that Lemles Bench. You can see the layered structure. This is very much in the Deccan Traps. Now we're talking about the mid-ocean ridge volcanoes. These are the volcanoes which are below the oceans. The total length of the mid-ocean ridges through all the ocean basins is more than 70,000 kilometers. And the central portion of this ridge experiences frequent eruptions. This is a diagrammatic representation of the eruptions or the volcanic activities taking place below the oceans. This is an actual photograph of a volcano which is underwater, under ocean volcano which has erupted. Now we are talking about volcanic landforms. These are the landforms which are there because of volcanic activity. The lava that comes out during volcanic eruption cools down and develops into a variety of landforms. Now, if the cooling takes place either on reaching the surface or also while the lava is still within the crust, we call the landforms such formed as intrusive forms. Intrusive means below the Earth's surface. Now, depending on where the lava cools down, igneous rocks are classified as volcanic rocks if the cooling is at the surface, and plutonic rocks if the cooling is in the crust. Lava that cools within the crust assumes different forms called intrusive forms. Now, this diagram is also there in your textbook. We'll be talking about each landform one by one. So you can have a look at this diagram, but shortly you'll be looking at each landform in detail. You have the radiating dikes, you have the lava plateau, you have the cinder cone, you have the lava mesa, you have the caldera, you have the batholith, the laccolith, etc. The sills. This is a photograph of a hill, and you can see this odd shaped jutting out portion of rocks. These are known as dikes. We're going to talk about that dikes shortly. Now, batholiths. This is a large body of magma material that cools down deeper in the crust. This develops the shape of large domes. They appear on the surface only after denudation. Denudation means erosion, the taking away of the surface soil. When the surface soil, the surface material is removed, then only you can see the batholiths. They may have their bases several kilometers down and they may cover very large areas below the ground. And often they have granite. On the left hand side is the diagrammatic representation of a batholith. There's a big magma chamber and you have the uh, convex uh, chambers. There's magma in that, and when it cools down, it forms something like this. This is a batholith. Now we're talking about laccoliths. They are like batholiths, but with pipe-like conduits from below. On the surface, they look like volcanic domes of composite volcano, but their bases are quite deep. One may consider it as a localized source of lava that finds its way to the surface. The Karnataka plateau has several granite hills. Most of these are examples of laccoliths and batholiths. Now look at this. This chamber is laccolith, and this dike is a pipeline. It's like a tube connecting it to the magma chamber below. And this is real life laccolith. Look at this. Talking about lapoliths now. When lava moves upwards, some of it may move in horizontal direction also, and wherever it finds a weak plane. So in such weak planes, it moves in horizontal directions. And here it solidifies into different forms. If this is like a saucer shape with a concave part toward the sky, we call it as a lapolith. That is a concave shape with the concave part towards the sky. And this uh, photograph on the right hand side doesn't show the lapolith directly, but you can guess what is below the soil. Now we are talking about phacoliths. Sometimes a wavy mass of intrusive rocks is found at the base of synclines or at the top of anticlines in folded igneous country. They have a definite conduit to source beneath in the form of magma chambers, which subsequently develop as batholiths. And these are known as phacoliths. This is look at the wave-like structure of the phacolith on the left-hand side and the actual photograph on the right-hand side. So you might have seen this kind of landforms several times in your lives, but those times you did not know what they were. Now you know. So your way of looking at things, even if you're looking at just a hill or just a piece of rock, will change when you learn geography, when you study geography. Now we are talking about sill and sheet. The near horizontal bodies of intrusive igneous rocks are called sill if they are thick, and if they are thin, we call them as sheets. Look at these red lines. These are the sills, and if they are thin, we call them as sheets. Here's an actual photograph of sill. Let's talk about dikes. When lava makes its way out through cracks and fissures developed in the land, it solidifies almost perpendicular to the ground. It gets cooled in the same position, forming a wall like structure, and these are known as dikes. They are common intrusive forms found in the western Maharashtra area. They are considered to be the feeders for the eruption that led to the development of the Deccan Traps. So you have these dikes. These are like pipelines, connecting the magma chamber to the vent. And in reality, it looks like this: the gray vertical structure you have in the on the right hand side photograph. You also have it spreading in the horizontal direction, but most of it is vertical. Here again, Some more example of dikes. Look at this. This is marvelous. We've reached another chapter, and here again we have a dike which is in New Mexico in the United States of America. This is known as Minot Dike. If you like this chapter, give it a thumbs up and wait for the next video. Bye for now.